It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Good morning. Welcome to Travel and Cruise Industry News on this, the 14th day of January, 2022. Today, folks, is National Hot Pastrami Sandwich Day. I kind of like that one. I'm going to be taking part in that one as soon as I get off the show here today on my way to therapy this afternoon. My PT is this afternoon. I might have to stop and get a pastrami sandwich on one side or the other of the PT session. All right, we've got a pretty good list of cruise sailings today, this being the 14th day of January. Port Canaveral, the Disney Dream sails. West Palm Beach, the Grand Classica. Of course, that's soon to be the Margaritaville Paradise sails. Down in Port Everglades, Regal Princess sails, Celebrity Silhouette, Silver Spirit, all sail today. From Miami, the Carnival Conquest, Freedom of the Seas, which I'll be on in 11 days now. Oceana Riviera, all sail from Miami. Over in Tampa, the Celebrity Constellation sails. From Galveston, the Disney Wonder sails. From Los Angeles, Long Beach, the Carnival Radiant sails. And from Los Angeles, San Pedro, Navigator of the Seas sails. So I'm kind of curious if you guys could hear that. I am actually filming using my phone as the camera, and I just had a phone call come through, which I could hear in my ear. I don't know if you could hear that or not. That would be interesting to check out when I get off the air today to see if you could actually hear that. All right, we've got a lot of headlines today because today is just absolutely plumb full of news. Rules for the new CDC voluntary COVID risk mitigation program is by far and above the main news story today. Norwegian Gem is in a bit of trouble. We're going to talk about that. That's just broken this morning. Tougher restrictions in the Yucatan. Cruises from Charleston restarted yesterday. Viking Neptune floated out. Royal Caribbean extends cruise with confidence program. And that, of course, carries over to Celebrity as well. Norwegian has canceled cruises out of New Orleans now. Carnival pulls out of Key West itineraries. The pandemic coming to an end? Is that possible? And much more this morning at 11 o'clock. All right, to get past a little bit of specialty news here. Many of you follow Cruises for Solos with our old buddy Pete Hall's original group, which has just exploded as far as popularity goes. He's now up to 12,000 followers on Cruises for Solo. And about a month or so ago, Pete got to the point where he needed some help with his channel, and he asked our dear friend Allison Moore, who's over there in Scotland, of course, and me to be administrators for Cruises for Solos, which we agreed to. So I've been helping him out some. Of course, a lot of the times that I help him out is when they're sleeping over on that side of the pond. So that's fine. And then they do a show on Sunday, which is now after the Cruise Amigo show, which I have been joining them for those shows and will continue to do so. They have come up with a group cruise, folks. A Cruises for Solos group cruise. It does not mean that you have to be a solo traveler, but if you are a solo traveler, it's a pretty good deal. But it's a good package deal even if you're a couple cruising as well and just want to join in with us. I am going myself. It's for May of 2023. So we're looking about, a year and a couple months away. It's a fairly limited space, so if you're interested, you might want to let me know, and we'll get you in charge of Rob that's handling this over in UK. We can book it from the States through the UK agent that's handling it for Pete and Allison over there. But if you're interested, let me know. It is a fabulous bucket list cruises for a lot of people. It's May the 22nd of 2023 on Brilliance of the Seas, 7-night sailing from Athens to Venice with stops in Mykonos, Crete, Zakynthos, Kotar, Split. And that's the Cruises for Solos group cruise. There's the possibility some folks from this side of the pond might want to do the transatlantic Norwegian Epic going over, or one of the other transatlantic cruises going from here to Europe for the season. And there's a possibility of combining this with Virgin Voyages' new Valiant Lady sailings, either before or after the group cruise. We may, depending on how this goes, may put together a second group cruise with Valiant Lady, possibly before or after this group cruise. We're going to see how it goes. But anyway, that's now available. I booked it last night. It's now on my schedule on my blog. Be sure to check it out. And if you're interested, you might want to jump on it pretty quick. So that's the Cruises with Solos group cruise. All right, to access the Travel and Cruise Industry News podcast, just to remind you again, you can always go to my accessible blog, which is accessadventure.net. The podcast is always posted. Every day's podcast is posted. It's also available anywhere that you get your regular podcasts, like iHeartRadio, Podchaser, Pandora, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and of course Spotify, who's the biggie, but they had gotten a little trouble last night with some of the information that some people feel they should have controlled and didn't. But that's going to be an interesting thing to go forward with the podcast world. The other thing that I found interesting before I get to the news for the day, Hot Air Tom was checking up on our buddies Nikki and Roger via Cruise Mapper. Yesterday, they crossed over the equator on the ship yesterday. And for those of you that are on the broadcast can see the depiction of them crossing over the equator for the first time on the South Pacific cruise. And Hot Air Tom tracked them down on the on his cruise mapper today, and says that because they're getting ready to go into a port, and he reported in how unbelievably small this island is they're going to, and said it's, it might be like 20 miles across the entire island. So that's what's going on with Nikki and Roger on board the Viking Orion, which is out in the South Pacific. So, all right, I will be back with today's news and lots more right after this word from one of our network sponsors. Back for today's news on Travel and Cruise Industry News for this, the 14th day of January. Tomorrow, that's January 15th, the CDC will finally allow the current conditional sailing order for cruise ships to expire, replaced by a new voluntary COVID-19 cruise program, a voluntary COVID mitigation cruise program to start. The CSO has been in place since October of 2020 and has been extended 3 times. It replaces the month-long no sail order put in place in March 2020. The news comes just a couple days after Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski asked CDC Director Rochelle Walensky point blank during a Senate hearing whether the agency planned to allow the CSO to expire. It's also less than 2 weeks after the CDC placed a level 4 do not travel warning on cruising, advising people to avoid cruises regardless of vaccination status. Walensky responded by stating she did not believe the CSO would be renewed, but the CDC would continue to provide guidance and assistance to the cruise industry during the pandemic. Walensky also gave a nod of recognition to the stepped-up efforts that have been made by the entire industry. So this was a little bit of a mixed message. The move to a voluntary program is not surprising. As early as January 5th, the CDC told our friends over Cruise Critic that the CSO would become a voluntary program. All right. Here are the rules for the new voluntary COVID-19 risk mitigation program that goes into effect tomorrow. Cruise lines that opt in to the program, notice that's opt in, will continue to see masking and testing guidelines and be able to dial back some of the onboard masking and other health protocols on ships sailing with at least 95% vaccination rate among crew and passengers. Passengers will once again be able to use buffets and self-serve stations regardless of passenger vaccination status. I'm not real wild about that one, but that's what's in the rules. Finally, simulated voyages will no longer be required. Now, that's an overview of the rules. Participating lines ships will continue to receive red, orange, yellow, or green color status based on the number of COVID cases below or above the CDC's investigation threshold. Although the qualifiers for yellow, orange, and red status are being updated. Up until now, the case thresholds were set at 0.1% under the current CSO. That's going to rise to 0.3% under the new voluntary program. So there's a bit of a change on the color coding system, but it's still going to be there. The CDC's maritime unit will continue to work closely with cruise ships opting into the program and continue to monitor COVID-19 preventive measures and cases on board these cruise ships through daily enhanced data collection and inspections. Further details on the program will be released via the CDC website tomorrow. That's January 15th when this becomes officially active. Lines operating in the U.S. and international waters that decide to opt out of the voluntary program will be identified on the CDC website via a gray color designation, which denotes that ships may have their own COVID-19 health and safety protocols, which the CDC has not reviewed or confirmed. Any lines only operating in U.S. waters that choose not to participate will not be listed on the CDC site at all. Regardless of whether a line or ship participates in the program, passengers, crew, and port staff will be required to follow CDC mandates on mask wearing and public transportation hubs. Under the CSO, there was an exception for U.S. flagships. Those are ships registered in the United States, of which of the major cruise ships is only one, and that's out in Hawaii, of course. But any of those ships who were encouraged but not required to adopt CSO guidelines, these ships will again get a break. And that, of course, is to the one ship. That's all I know of. These, as far as major cruise ships go, these ships will again get a break from the CDC's new voluntary program, as those who choose not to participate will not be marked as having a gray ship status. Cruise lines have until January 21st, that's 1 week from today, to join the voluntary program. If you don't join the program by the 21st of July, you're going to have go to that gray status, I guess. So that's a little more information on the new COVID mitigation system on board the CDC. The new voluntary COVID-19 risk mitigation program is the official word. All right, let's move on from that one. The Norwegian gym, and this is breaking news literally this morning. The Norwegian gym cruise canceled mid-sailing. Norwegian Cruise Line has told guests aboard the gym that the ship is heading back to New York early and the rest of the 10-day sailing is canceled. The good news, if there is such for the guests, is that they're going to receive a full refund and a $100 onboard credit per stateroom and a future cruise credit valued at 50% of the voyage fare paid for the current sailing. So that's a pretty good chunk back to the folks that are affected by this. The ship overnighted in St. Martin last night and will head back to New York this morning. The gym is set to continue her 10-day Caribbean program from New York through the spring. The next sailing is scheduled for the 19th. Reportedly, the captain has asked guests not to book their air flights home, which is technically rebooking, canceling the flight after the cruise and booking a new flight home, until there's a definite ETA for New York. That's, of course, anticipated arrival time in New York is established. So apparently there's not a definite ETA back to New York yet, which I find unusual because they clearly know exactly how long it's going to take them to sail from St. Martin to New York. I'm a little wondering if there's more to this than meets the eye. Another post suggested that there's not enough healthy crew to operate the vessel safely. I don't have confirmation of that notion, but that's been reported to Chillie's Cruises from a reasonably reliable source. So the gym is clearly having some distress, and it apparently is due to the number of crew members on board that have tested positive and are in quarantine. And as a result, they've canceled the remainder of this cruise. All right, the Yucatan yesterday reported 459 new cases in a single day as health authorities walked the state of Mexico back from green to yellow alert. This means large-scale events like the Merida Fest and a planned music concert at Foro and La Isla are assumed postponed until at least February 15th. Face masks are mandatory, not just a guideline, although specifics were not given. Previous lockdown measures like curfews, limits on restaurants or hotels, and bans on alcoholic sales were not addressed in the notice yesterday. Daily COVID cases were as low as 12 in the Yucatan on December 23rd, but have steadily gone up since with the highly transmissible Omicron virus got to the peninsula. Yesterday was some good news for the cruise industry. After 22 months, the Carnival Sunshine finally resumed voyages from its year-round home port of Charleston, South Carolina. The 2,964-passenger vessel kicked off a series of 4 to 10-day cruises that will sail to the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Yesterday cruise is a 4-nighter, visiting Nassau along with a couple days at sea. Viking's newest ship, the Viking Neptune, was floated out at Fincantieri shipyard in Ancona, Italy yesterday. The float-out began around 11 a.m. local time when a member of the Viking team cut a cord that signaled water to begin flowing into the ship's building dock. Following a 2-day process to set the vessel afloat, Neptune will then be moved to a nearby outfitting dock for final construction and the interior build-out. So that's the first step for the Neptune. Royal Caribbean has extended the Cruise with Confidence program in light of the continued spread of the Omicron variant. The program will now include reservations that are confirmed on or before March 31st for cruises departing through September 30th, 2022. It offers the option that booked guests to cancel their cruise up to 48 hours prior to the sail date in exchange for 100% future cruise credit. The future cruise credit can be used for any sailing that departs within a year from the original sail date or by December 31st, 2022, whichever is longer. Speaking of Norwegian Cruise Line canceled additional sailings in addition to the 11 ships that we announced yesterday. Norwegian Breakaway has now joined the list and has become the 12th ship in the fleet to cancel cruises since the start of 2022, rather. The cruises from New Orleans are canceled through January 23rd sailing. The next scheduled Breakaway cruise is set to sail on January 30th. Carnival Cruise Line has informed guests of a change to their upcoming itinerary as the cruise line is still unable to make calls at Key West. There are itinerary changes for 3 cruise ships with sailings in January and February of 2022. Cruises affected are on the Carnival Conquest, the Carnival Sunrise, and the Carnival Dream. Former U.S. Food and Drug Administration Commissioner and cruise industry health consultant Dr. Scott Gottlieb says he believes the pandemic is coming to an end, and he's planning to take his family on a cruise this summer. That's encouraging news. In a webinar with Norwegian Cruise Line CEO Frank Del Rio, Gottlieb said he believes the highly transmissible Omicron variant is already peaking, and the next 2 to 3 weeks will likely show a rapid decline in cases. He also made a strong case that the devastating pandemic phase of the COVID-19 virus is nearing an end, and it will soon become a seasonal nuisance. More like flu. He didn't say that. I said that. Going forward, Gottlieb says the combination of a significant wall of immunity through vaccination and previous illness, robust testing, and increased access to powerful therapeutics will very likely see COVID-19 fade into the background of our daily lives. This could be as early as the fall, he suggested. And believe me, folks, coming from Scott Gottlieb, there's very few people that carry more credence in the health world than Scott Gottlieb. That's right up there with Dr. Fauci and Dr. Gupta and several other of the big time people that we see all the time. Scott Gottlieb. Wow, that's awesome news. All right. That's finally the end of the news for today. Let's go over in the chat room and see if anybody's fussing at me or if I did anything wrong, which is probably very likely. All right, in the chat room, who's with us today? Ken is with us up in Pennsylvania. Amy's with us. Carol's here. Jason's with us up in Pittsburgh. He says, good morning, tongue. Yeah. It's like that sometimes. Looks better than usual. There's a lot of things, there's some bad news today, but boy, that's terrific news with Scott Gottlieb. I'm telling you, that's awesome news. Hot Air Tom's here. He says hello to everyone. Of course, Hot Air Tom was on the gym recently, twice. So he's very familiar with that chip. As a matter of fact, Hot Air Tom's one of my sources for some of that information that sent me looking for it and other sources, which I, of course, have found. So Kenneth says, I heard something. Jason says, I heard a cat. Oh, I did. That's possible in this house. It's very possible. I did not pay any attention to the cat, so I'm not sure if there was one crying or not. I just totally ignore them now. But yeah, it's very possible there are two cats in this house, and they can be mouthy at times. Jason says, Hot Air, we need to see more of your adventures in the air, like the balloon and the what do you call it? Going up on with the boat pulling you. Yeah, I like Hot Air Tom up in the air. That's a good idea, Jason. Gretchen's with us. Jason says, my channel is exploding too, but old people don't like it. I hear you, Jason. Kenneth asked Tom if he's feeling any better. He was a little puny here a couple days ago. Hot Air Tom says, Jason, yeah, what's a Pokemon? Hot Air says he's still coughing and the sinus drip doesn't want to end. Jason says it's the only thing I'm good at streaming, Hot Air. I tried cruise content and was canceled. It's funny, Jason. Hot Air says it's sad. There's John came out of his hibernation up there in Minnesota to say good morning to everyone. Hot Air says he checked on his February 3rd Bliss cruise this morning. It's getting close, 21 days. Jason asked, NPR radio? No, not NPR radio. That I promise you. On the bit of a snafu, the registration for COVID testing with CVS via check-in didn't work. CVS says the registration number, which also populated, is not recognized. One of these days, I promise you, I'm going to detail, if I have some time, my war with CVS and what happened with that. I no longer use CVS as a pharmacy. Jason says Cruise Mapper is fun and CSO is a joke. I thought it was funny. What happens if a cruise line elects to not follow the optional CSO? The ship would be listed as gray on the color chart, and it didn't look like a good thing. Yeah, I think in the long run, this is probably a good sign for the industry in that if, in fact, the CDC does their job properly, it can be a benefit to a cruise industry that is doing everything possible to keep its guests and crew safe. So I'm looking at the half full side of the equation rather than the half empty side and thinking this is going to be bad, that the CDC is still going to be sticking their nose in the cruise business. I think it's going to be positive. And until I'm proven otherwise, that's what I'm going with. That this is going to be a good thing for us in the long run. Jason says, Jim Walker sent me a cease and desist order. I'm not allowed to mention him on Facebook. Well, that's why I try never to mention his name. It's not somebody that I particularly like either. Where is Liz on location? Liz on location is probably, I have not talked to her today or yesterday. I imagine she's madly packing as she gets on the Meraviglia today. So I'm not sure on the time that she gets on. She might be on it now, as far as I know. But yes, today, I believe, is the day the Meraviglia gets to Cozumel, and she gets on it and sails away for who knows how long. So through this contract. Today she joined her new ship, Gretchen says. Yep. Jason says she's crazy. Yeah, but that's her. Yeah, that's all she's done for the last some 25 years, Jason. That's her livelihood is working on ships. Jason says NCL turning around all their ships. Well, at least they're reacting to what's going on board. So, Hot Air says, I'm good with the Jim deal. Cruise 7 days for free and get a 50% bonus to boost. Yeah, but, how many people are on board are going to end up positive because of this? I mean, this could have lingering effects on a lot of passengers, as only some time is going to tell. And then you've got all of them that have to admit this now in from the contact tracing business. I don't know. We're just going to have to see how this one plays out. Seemed like Carnival is a safest bet to cruise at this point. That's so far has been one of them, at least. Who is the source? Spill the beans. No, I'm not going to do that. Can't do that. Katie's with us. Katie says, morning all. Hot Air says, laugh out loud. It's Jason 412. No, it wasn't. Jason wasn't the source either. I said Hot Air Tom's is one of my sources on this one. Yeah. Yes, Hot Air checked on cruise mapper. Meraviglia is in Cozumel. So now we know where Elizabeth is. Yep, she is either on the boat or going through the process of getting everything approved to get on the boat. I would imagine, she's already on board. I think that's probably done first before any passengers. I don't know. They probably would let passengers off that are going ashore for the day. Anyway, I imagine Elizabeth's on board. Nikki's with us from out in the South Pacific. Good morning, everyone. We're scheduled to reach land today in about an hour. Yeah, on that little teeny tiny island. Jason says, I absolutely love watching this stream. It's even better when Crazy Emily tries to chat. Yeah, where's Emily? I haven't seen her today. She must be out with the dogs. Gretchen says, my son and wife will be in Playa del Carmen, 121 to 124 for a destination wedding. Just missed her. Oh, that's too bad. Jason says, what is that noise? I'm guessing that would have been, I think that was probably, I heard my brother-in-law coughing in the background. He's in the other part of the house. So that's probably what you heard there. Because he's on the Cruise Health Advisory Board, I wonder if he's cruising free. Gretchen asked about Scott Gottlieb. I would say no. I don't think that I think Scott Gottlieb is way beyond getting freebies. Jason says, I wonder how much he was paid to say that. I'm not so sure. I see him quite often on MSNBC. And I respect what he says a lot. And that kind of goes with what I've been saying about the way this variant is going to go. I'm thinking 2 weeks. I've said that before. By the time I get on a cruise in 11 days now, that the numbers were going to be significantly down. He's just taken it a step further because he's a lot smarter than I am. Kenneth says, I wonder what Norwegian Cruise Line is doing. It seems like they are getting really hit hard with this. Wonder if they're doing something wrong. Wonder if they're doing something wrong or if it's just the luck of the draw with this variant's bad, folks. And assuming that all the crews have been vaccinated and boosted, which we don't know about the boosted part of it on the cruise yet, those are the ones that are safest from the Omicron variant, or those that have been boosted also. So I don't know. Hot Air says, Gretchen, he might have been paid in FCC. Yeah, no, that's not. I don't believe that. So now everybody's talking about Florida and being crazy. We're not going to get on that one. Viking is naming ships after planet. Guess which one they will skip over? Hint, it's not Mars. Tom, that might even be true. Gretchen says Earth, Uranus. Gretchen says, oh, that was poor. Parasailing. Duh. See, that's what happens when you get my age, Jason. You have these brain locks when your mind is going 10 times in other directions. Jason says CVS war. Yep. Has to do with money, and it has to do with a lot of money. I will do that one day. Carnival hasn't canceled anything. Not yet. They've been lucky. Princess are still sailing too. Yes, they are. There it is again. I'm sure. Jason says, I hope you're all right, Chillie Cruises. It's not me. That was my brother-in-law. Probably, got a coughing spell and the eating or something in the background. So remember, my sister's 10 years older than I am, and he's 5 years older than my sister. So, they're getting some age on. So anyway, that's what you hear in the background. So, all right, that's going to wrap me up for today, guys. As always, if you're new to this channel, welcome back. We had a lot of new people joined us yesterday that followed Jordan over from JJ Crew. So we got a whole bunch of new subscribers. If any of you are in the audience today and have not subscribed to this channel, please feel free to do so. It doesn't cost anything. It helps the channel out a lot and continues our growth. And one of these days here and soon, maybe tomorrow, I will sit down and tell you my plans for how I'm going to be handling my cruises coming up for the next 3 weeks, starting the 24th, as far as streaming and videos and blogging go. I've developed a little bit of a plan of attack now. I'll share that with you and maybe share CVS too. So if we get a day with a little bit less quantity news, I'll put a little more editorial comment on our broadcast for tomorrow, maybe, or one day soon. So that's going to wrap me up for today, folks. As always, stay safe. Pay attention to what's going on out there in the world. Wear your mask because you still need to do that for a little bit. Stay safe, stay healthy, think about cruising, and hopefully we'll all get together on the high seas really soon. This is the Old Fat Travel Guy. Have a fabulous day. I'll see you tomorrow. Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Travel and Cruise Industry News Podcast. Later, y'all.
I regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry. So if you like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, Chillie chats, and travel and cruise industry news, just hit the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when a new video is up or we go live. This video was produced by Chillie's Cruises.